We've got a Tioga Class C in here. Let's go take a look at the roof. Alright, check out our roof system here. Now, they brought it in like this. They brought it all the way from Missouri. I want to make it, I guess it's watertight enough to have rolled. So, now we're going to take all this apart and see what we got underneath it. Probably got to take all these strappings off and everything. It looks like they might have secured it down here. I get real nervous about screwing into here because sometimes they run wires in there. Sometimes they run wires in there, so we don't know if there's wires in there that have been breached. Not sure, but anyhow, it's here, and we will get it ripped apart and check her out. All right, we're gonna see if we can get this section of the roof. Seems pretty good. Then when you come up here, it's not pretty good. It's got a good gap under there. There's about 3/4 of an inch or so underneath there. So we're going to try jacking this up and see what happens. And but this has heavier steel in it. Most of the ones we see, like this is steel in here. That looks like it's probably 11 gauge steel. But all the other ones we see, and this is 1.5 by 1.5. That's some good stock. So the only thing that probably didn't do so well, let's see where that one goes there. Yeah. Okay. So these look like they're welded pretty good, but it's still got a belly in it. It's 1.5 by 1.5. I'm trying to feel like this one over here. Yeah, that looks pretty well. Got a little bit on that side, but that's just the way the foam's sitting, I think. That's what we look for, is really the center. We're not looking for it to be, you know, level going across. That coach probably isn't level sitting in the garage. But for this one, you can definitely see there's a belly in it. So we're going to see if there's a way we can take that out. Yeah, you can see that one too. Probably a little better over this way. So that's what we're going to try and bridge up. Let's see how good we can accomplish that. If we can, then we can get it glued and we can get some decking on it. That would be awesome. Then the decking would help hold it in place once we overextend it. So when you look over here, yeah, quite a bit there. Yeah, that's probably a little over, well, the foam's sagging, but on the frame, you're probably close to 1 inch right there on each side, over here, over there. You know, but the foam, you can see the foam is kind of bellied in right here. So we're going to see what we can't do. See if we can get her corrected. Alright, so we got, we're straightening out, we're putting some steel in here. That's what we're going to do. That'll reinforce the roof. So, and we're going to glue it all down. Everything's going to get glued together. So, we'll get all that. And then, because there's not enough, even though there's 11 gauge, and that seems pretty strong, and that seems pretty strong, but then you got these big gaps right here with nothing. So, that's why we're going to put some more strength in there to hold it. And we had a sag over here, and now what we did, when we had that sag, now you can see that's what I want right there. It's that center is pushed up, so once we glue everything together, it'll hold it tighter. We overextend it a bit, and once you do that, when you glue it together, when it tries to settle down, it's fighting against everything after it's all glued in here. So this is what we got here. A lot of rot. This whole thing is all rotted right here. That piece you can see is rotted right there. All needs to be replaced. And then we also have, you can see this D-lammed right here. It came apart. We got this other strip right in here that we got to take out. Get rid of that. So, and then we're gonna have to try and, this is kind of free floating. You see how it's dropped right here, and that's what we're gonna get all that aligned back up. We got to get it all aligned before we can put anything back together. And then, like you said, this is gonna have to come out. That's why we took the windows out, and then before we do any more work, you get that window treatment out so that doesn't get ruined. And the same over here is not too bad, but I do have some issues down here. That's not good. So we gotta take all this. This seems stuck, but we still gotta get in and work on that. But this seems, but then look at the bottom here.
we got to investigate all this and see what's strong, what's going to stay, what isn't. But it looks like the platform may be okay, but it looks like we may be in for at least a little bit of what maybe called surgery, because the rest of this is okay. You can see that fresh wood and the insulation, that looks well. But again, then you get the other stuff that's rotted. So and that's not supposed to come up quite like that. You know, it should have been glued together. You know, and especially these two pieces, you can see they're separating right here. So that's called D-lam right there. All right, let's get to work and try and get something done. Let's take a look at our bunk. All right, so this is how they just put them in. And they're just, we unleashed them over there, but they're just sticks. Oh, it's rotted, it rotted out. That's all they have. So you don't really have a lot of strength. You can see when you press down on it, even if it was secured, like this one looks a little more secured, but it bounces too much. So we got to fix all that mess. But you got a bunch of rot right here. This whole thing is rotted all the way down across underneath there. You can see that the bunk is separated right in there. So it's come apart. Then around the other side here, this is just disgusting. So, and all that is obviously rotted away. It fell right out. So we also have some issues with the ceiling right here that we're probably going to have to tear that out and fix it. So we've got a little bit of work here. We got a little bit of work. So this is a pure example of, hey, why you get behind? Because this coach come in, as you saw the plastic that was on it, the owner was pretty confident that the platform was okay and everything was okay. And he said, oh, all it needs is a roof and a redeck. No, it doesn't. So we get into these, and underneath there, if you really punched it, you would think that it was pretty good. But as you can see, it's not. So I don't know this is if there's any metal in there or something that I was hitting on maybe when I was trying to punch up inside there. I usually just go up underneath and punch the bunk, but the bottom platform, and it had a solid sound to it, but you can see, like I said, that it's literally just coming apart. So it may have sounded solid because it's got so many layers on here. Somebody had already put, looks like a laminate on top of it. But anyhow, it's all coming apart, and then I gotta rebuild this whole entire thing, and get a new bunk and blah blah blah. Same old. But it is what throws our, or what I call a board. We don't call it a calendar anymore. There's no calendar. It doesn't exist. It's just a board. When we get done with one, we go get another one. And like this piece up here, you can see how that one there is just sloping down here. So we got to get all this mess straightened out. So we've had some issues with it over there. Now, like I was showing you, the foam and that ceiling panel is really bad. So more than likely we'll pull this up, see if we can't get that ceiling panel out and get a new one in there. I'd like to do that because that one's really bad. So anyhow, that's where we're at. And then all we did over here is we just put, we've got some strong backs up inside there that are holding the ceiling up, but we put these on here, and these are embedded into the foam. This is actually pretty strong. It's actually stronger than most of them that I've come across, and the framing is a little different on these. So a lot of times I do something, hey, it's not the same way you did the last time. Well, this one's got 1.5 by 1.5 steel right here, and you got 1 by 1.5 right here. So it's actually a little thicker than most of the Class C's that we've worked on, especially the smaller ones like this. And it was just had a slight sag in here, so we jacked that up, and then we're going to put our sheathing across it. But I wanted to add more strength so we can get the sheathing on there. Now these are all glued to the foam, so now that it's glued to the foam, then when I put the sheathing on it, everything kind of layers together. It layers together. It's like a bunch of ants. You can't just throw an elephant on there and say it's done. You got to get a whole bunch of ants to hold it together. So but again, that's where we're at right here. And once we get that straightened out, then we'll move forward to try to get the decking on here and everything else. But like I said, we were really just expecting to tear this up, put a roof on it, and you know. But again, it doesn't usually transpire that way. So if you've got your coach in here, is my point. If you've got your coach in here, you know, we just ask folks to be patient with us, because I don't want to do a sour job on this one here just for the sake of getting the guy who's complaining behind him in here, because that isn't the way we roll. We're not a corporate America shop, so we're actually a really small shop. But we do specialty work like this. There isn't anybody that does the degree of work that we do, that I know of anyways, in this anywhere. So, you know, I know I design the roof systems, so no one's doing my roof systems, but still I see a lot of people that don't know how to do proper repairs. I've even seen them on YouTube. and they just don't know that this is going to affect that, or there isn't enough strength in this piece to carry that, and with the materials they're all using or not using. So you know, all of that has a factor. So well, let me stop talking and get some work done. So we're trying to pre-fit or dry fit, what I call dry fit, the new platform. We got a lot of other things got to deal with too. There's a whole bunch of rust. There's so much rust on there on this frame that literally, like you can see how black it is. And I come in here and I've got a power magnet that I use for welding, and it was so rusted my power magnet wouldn't stick there, so I could just get and dry fit another piece that I had on there. That's how bad it is. So we got to sand all this down, even all up underneath right here where this is gonna sit into. But then we just come into another loop here. Look at all these wires. Whoever did this bunk before jammed the piss out of this thing, and especially like this wire here. It's got, see if I can get in and zoom in on it for you. Look at there. And we're gonna have to check them all, make sure they're right. But that's how it's been sitting. So it looks like we may have a couple in there. That black one right there looks like it's compromised too. Let's see if I can get a flashlight in there. It just throws another kink in the cog. There we go. Yeah, that black one's bare. This black one right here. You can see it right there, it's bare. See if I can zoom up just a little more. Sometimes the camera gets squirrely when I try to do that. See it? There's actual like copper showing right there, you know, the actual wire. Insulation's all mashed out. So we're gonna have to get that repaired before we can even get our bunk platform in. And then we can dry fit everything. Once we get everything dry fit, I still got a sealant panel up here I gotta tear out. They're up in here somewhere. I'm gonna tear that out and get all this plastic that we had up on here, because when we sand all this down to get some of that rust off, we can't put that back in there like that. Then we'll have to prime it or something. But I didn't want to get all that inside the coach, so that's why we put all this plastic up and everything. We just dropped it down just for a minute so we could try to dry fit this, and then we ran into this issue with the wire. So that's what we're doing right now. They don't have any weld. They don't have any weld in there. Go over this way. No weld in the bottom right here. There's no welds. So what happens is when you just put a weld, back this up, when you put a weld on the top and then the weight comes down, you're actually bending that weld against itself and it'll break. And that's kind of what happened in the back. So we're gonna get all this out so we can put a new sealant panel in. That's what we're trying to do, take all this out so we can, you know, we gotta get these wires out of here. We really don't want to cut them, and then we'll reframe it. But then we gotta negotiate something on here. We got a little weld in the back, right? It looks like we got a weld right there. So we'll see if we can salvage some of this. It's got to come out so we can rebuild a sealant panel. This all sits on the wall, sits all on top. So that's the way you want to do it. You got to take it out and then drop it down. If not, you'd have to cut all around here, and then it would just look terrible. It just would not look well, and you'd have to put some trim on it. And then you're gonna have to put trim all around there, then it wouldn't match the rest of the coach. So that's what we're gonna try and do, is, like you said, is get this piece out. If I can get that piece out, then I can rebuild it. So, and this is our only issue here. So I don't think there was a vent here either. Alright, well, let us get to work. So these wires, these are the ones down there. We put tape on it just because we were trying to dry fit. We didn't want to make them worse. We're going to take that apart. But these wires, they run all the way up. Here's your roof. Here's your rooftop. I got some wires underneath here, and those things don't want to move. But what I'm wondering is, and they go down there, why didn't they just have them come out the bottom side over there and get rid of all those issues? That doesn't make sense. So we may have to make some sense out of it, because we're just ruining that. And I think we're going to leave all this, and if I can, I may be able to remove this and just elevate this, and I'll have to do a reverse build on this, where I'll put the sealant panel in, and we'll get that all secured, and then we'll fill it all on the inside with the foam, and then we'll put the next layer on top. So I may have to do it that way, because there's a lot of work to take all this out, to try to break all this free. It seems like it is. So That's what I'm trying to prevent from tearing apart a wallet unnecessarily if we can go another avenue. But we'll see as we go along, because I'd still have to cut those. I'd have to cut those out and then cut that other piece out. And that's what I'm hoping, that we wouldn't have to do all that nonsense. So we're going to give it the old college try, see how that works. Well, we get the bunk put together here. We're going to mount the lights. We've got all that squared away. And we'll go up these stairs. I'll probably run a broom through this shop. Insulation falling down. Alright. So we also redecked it. And then everything's all glued and screwed. We screwed it through that frame there that we had put back in. We also got some of the camber. We got that back a little bit. So it's not going to be major like an arch. You're not going to see that. We're just trying to add some strength to it. That's all we're trying to do. So that's about us. Everything's already been screwed and glued. We've got our edging on here to protect the roofing. And we're about ready to put a roof on this thing. We obviously get a couple windows put in and start buttoning it all up. So we're moving along. Alright, here we go. We have got this here side. We call that the passenger side. It has been glued. It has been rolled. This here is the driver side, because up there's a seat. You drive in there. We're going to roll this over and smooth it. And then it's done. We drill holes for the curbs and all that jazz. So we're rocking. You can see we got all our protective strips on there and all that stuff. So now let's get this rolled out and quit talking. Now we're just rolling the roof out. That's what we're doing with that big heavy roller. We'll get this sucker back down. Ain't going nowheres. It's like 110 pounds, I think. We're done with that Tioga. There's our logo right there. We put that on there, so then we know when the roof was done, when it comes back for an inspection, so we can kind of monitor that. Also, if you went to sell it, I'd hate for someone to try to talk them down and you go, hey, wait a minute, that roof was just put on August of 21 and it's still under warranty. So we got everything on here. Need to have covers on these. Far too many times people, I don't know if people leave them open or if those covers just open, but really need to have these covers on there. Got our boots. Everything's all welded. This is all heat welded in here. Even you get our plumbing all heat welded in here. And then if a tree branch took this off, this little cap, if it popped off, you know, your water's just going to go into the holding tank, the rain or whatever. You know, obviously the rain. So you got our air conditioners. We got a couple of stands in the back. It gives us some balance. So we make everything here. Everything here, we fabricate every single piece. We don't sell anything at all. We also don't endorse this to be a tutorial or a DIY channel. We do these videos for the customer. We want to thank the customer for bringing this coach in. We really appreciate it. Came all the way from Missouri. So, you know, we want to make sure we do a really good job for sure that these things are done correctly. And because they travel all this way down here. But all that being said, like I said, we want to thank the customer. These are not tutorials. And also we don't discuss price on our channel either. If someone puts a comment down, sometimes they'll say, how much did this cost? How much did that cost? We don't discuss any of that on social media. So, and YouTube's our only social media. We got rid of Facebook. So, a added event right up here. There wasn't one, but we added it. There was room for it, and it'll obviously give some breeze for the bunk up in there. You can see the way we got this antenna on here. This is a Winegard automatic antenna. It's an 8500 series, so you can see we got the bolts right there. If anything, you know, happened to this, that it either failed, or even if it, you know, a tree branch hit it or whatever, and you need to replace it, all you have to do is undo those bolts over, the nuts off of there, pop it off. You may have to drill those out a little bigger, and because those are 3/8 that we've got on there, you just may have to do that. But otherwise, you know, it'll pop right back on. You just put your coax back on the side, and that's it. So on the front of the AC, we put a piece of counter flash up underneath here. That's what that is. So when the water rolls down and around, it'll hit that counter flash, and then it goes below our other built-in counter flash on the curb. So it's going to wash right out, and you don't have to. Typically the way they do these is to just, obviously they set them down. If you've got an RV or a camper, you probably know that. It just sits down, and then they just, on the inside there's a plate and the bolts go up through it, and it kind of squashes it. It's called a compression fitting, and there's a foam gasket on there. But you got all that weather and everything still going up underneath the air conditioner, which dries out the gasket, and it just causes it to leak. So this is the proper way to do it. This is all commercial application. That's every bit of this is all commercial. We don't use any RV, anything RV. Like all the caulking, all the adhesives, everything we use is all commercial grade. Well, I have to do all this here, this insert. That's a marine type of insert that we use. You can try to find that maybe on either Amazon or whatever. We don't sell anything. So yeah, I know AP Products makes something similar to that. That's a different one. We have to buy so much of it. Again, we don't sell the pieces of the parts and so forth. So, but that's our little Tioga. So again, we want to thank Mr. Customer for bringing it to our shop. We really, really appreciate it. And we'll see you all in the next one. Well, let me go over the membrane here before I close the video. This is a 60 mil commercial grade TPO. And what TPO is, it's a thermoplastic. That's why everything all heat welds together. I'm looking for a piece, but I don't have a piece handy. But this is a structured membrane. And what a structured membrane does is there's a weave in it. And that weave, here's a piece over here. Shop's kind of a mess. We're trying to clean that up too. But you can see some of the squares. See all that grid in there? There's a mesh built into it. So that helps prevent like tree branches and things puncturing the roof. That's really what it does. This is the bottom side. This is called the base side. And then you got, obviously the top side is the TPO part right here is the thermoplastic, is which welds. So all that welds together, and it's a much better system than a glue system, a typical rubber roof, or obviously the cheap RV grade. But that product there is 60 mil. That's the thickness of it is 60 mil. So that's a pretty thick product. So the insert trim, which is right here, what I like about that, let me see if I can get a piece. This is just a piece of flat stock that we got on there, but the gutter has the same thing. Then it's got a gutter built into it. So what happens is this will fit in this track, but if you look at it, it's got grooves, so it fits in the channel. When it fits in the channel tight, you got that piece that goes up underneath it, and then the other piece locks on top of it, and it keeps a lot of that extra moisture and water out of it. That's why we like using this. We don't use the typical RV stuff that you just kind of slob, that you put inside there, and it just sits in that track, and then water can get in there and it travels around. We don't like that. We just buy the better product. So we also went around all the lights, actually went around the whole entire coach and sealed everything. This is just clear. I went around it with clear because this is really not white. It's just kind of dinged out, and I'll bet it'll probably come back to closer to white. But if I had white on there, it would just stand out like a sore thumb. So we went around everything with all clear, the whole entire around the lights. We went around all the windows. We went around everything. Went around the whole entire coach. We went around and resealed everything on it. So, well, that's our Tioga. And like I said, we appreciate you watching. If you like the video, sure, throw it a thumbs up. From what I understand, when you like a video, when you put a thumbs up, then the algorithms, if somebody's searching for like RV roofs or something like that, it just helps that search engine kind of work better, from what I understand. But I don't know how many subscribers we have. I mean, we appreciate the ones we do have, but if you want to subscribe, that'd be great. There are commercials on there. We tried taking the commercials off of YouTube because I hate them. Even when I get on YouTube, I can't stand them. But then YouTube sent us a notice and said, well, if you're not going to monetize them, then we're going to. So long story short, we just went ahead to go back and redo it. But again, we appreciate you watching. We'll see you on the next video.